All right. So as I was saying, there's a number of ways someone can fake their death. You look at someone like Kobe Bryant. What he did was a pretty simple thing, where they're going to look for the dental records after the explosion, right? And in his case, he had a life insurance policy. I'm pretty certain. So there's going to be um, that to consider as well. In Tupac's case, I don't know if there's a life insurance policy, right? So this is where the crimes start adding up. If there's a life insurance policy and someone cashes in on that, then it's going to be considered a fraud. So if you planned it correctly, you don't have a life insurance, or you don't take the cash, right? You just don't accept the cash, and that way you're avoiding one crime. You have to wait for the statute of limitations to pass, which I don't believe it has yet, because it was 1996, and now we're in 2020. So it's short 1 year, basically. I think I'd have to look into it. It might be short something less, but basically, what I've been told is we gotta re-elect the Donald. We gotta get Suge Knight out of jail, and we have to get him a presidential pardon for what happened, and then he'll appear, and it will be him, real life, okay, in the flesh, because when he was shot, they said the body was cremated. It wasn't actually cremated, okay? And all that has to be done is you have to get a stem cell, grow a lung that comes from himself, put that lung in the body, and then he puts himself back in the body, and then he's walking around. Very simple how you reanimate a body. If you know anything about meditation and astral projection and how to navigate your dreams, if you've ever had a lucid dream, then you'll know what I mean, okay? And he talks about it himself too. He had a song called Ghost, and in Ghost he talks about running from the cops, and then he has to turn into a ghost, and basically he's talking about getting shot by the cops, and that's all there is to it. You get shot, all that happens, you're still there, and if you're in the moment and you don't realize it happened, then you're kind of in a bind. You're stuck, okay? So what had happened with Tupac, from what I understand, his mom showed up and she asked for him to be unplugged. She didn't want to see him on a ventilator like that, and she thought that he wouldn't need to, that somebody who had lived so hard should at least be given the ability to die a natural death, right? Well, but Tupac hadn't made that decision. He was trying to come back. When somebody is when the body's like that, the spirit is trying to decide, should I come back or not. So there was still stuff holding him back. He wanted to come back to the body. It wouldn't have happened like that if he was ready to die. And this is the thing: if he was ready to die and leave, he would have just left. But he wanted to come back. His mother was there in the room. There's a conversation that happens at a spiritual level, and Afeni Shakur made the plan to pull the plug and to let him die. So that's it. That's how it happens, right? And then what happens at that point? Then your memory lives on. You're still here in spirit. People know who you are, and they miss you, right? And a lot of people still miss him. They ask the question, and that's why I got so angry at Barack Obama when he was joking about it and saying, we're still trying to figure out who shot Biggie and Tupac. It was just not the right joke to make at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and I'm glad that the Donald ran and replaced him, because Barack Obama was an Oreo. He's not a black president. He's a closet jihadist. There's nothing good about that guy. He's a dangerous man. Stay away from him. He will look you in your eye. He'll lie to you. Okay, he's that type of person, and I'm sure you've seen these people before. They train themselves to be like that, and they'll look you in the eye. They'll lie to you. They'll tell you one thing, and then they'll do another thing. I have dealt with it a lot. Okay, especially when I travel, it tends to be an Islamic, or in when I was in India, it was an Islamic guy. They just straight up lie to you, and it's kind of like, at that time I was thinking to myself, well, these guys are supposed to be, reading the Quran and bending over prostrate 3 times a day. So why would he lie to me? And then I started looking into it a little bit more closely. I read the Quran 3 times, and it's a backwards, twisted, ridiculously stupid religion, right? They're afraid of pigs. God created the pig. Okay, the pig is a beautiful creature. They're afraid of pigs. They circumcise themselves, and then they bend over prostrate, and they read this book. The book teaches them how to beat your wife. Surah 334 explains in which circumstance you may hit your wife. Okay, and there's some argument within the Islamic community about what that means. The thing with the Quran is it's encoded, meaning that the way that it's written, and it's a poem basically, and So it is very difficult, if not impossible, to change any of it once it's written. So now they have to deal with that. That's there in the mathematical encoding of this poetry is done so that that can never change. And another thing that's mentioned is there's the Quran, and then there's also I'm not sure what they call them, but basically this prophet Muhammad, who was a fake, false prophet, and thank God he's dead. He was killed by a battle priestess who had mastered poisoning after the caliphate killed her husband and father. He died. He had a prophecy that the false prophet's heart will explode, and his heart exploded. That's how he died. He had a heart attack because he was poisoned by the battle priestess. And so Muhammad is a false prophet, and Allah is a false god, demonic in nature. Stay away from them. Keep doing your thing. Practice the fruits of the Holy Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness.